Yeah, so I really hope that you'll call us today and give us your best ministry gift so that we can send you this brand new book, God Help Me Rebuild My Broken World by Dr. Michael Youssef. It's such a timely book for today. We look at what's happening in our society. We see how we're taking God out of our schools, God out of our marriages, God out of our government, and the walls have been breaking down. And it's time for this nation to rebuild those walls. And so I want to encourage you to call us today, and please do what you can to help us stay on the air so that we can help rebuild the walls of this nation. Let me ask you a question. If you had to think about something that would strike fear and terror in you, what would it be? For me, I think back to a time in my life and in my brother's life. I remember he went out for the day to work, and while he was away, he got a phone call saying that his house had been caught on fire and had completely burned to the ground. Could you imagine being out and getting that phone call that everything you loved, everything you knew was now gone? Well, that's exactly how Nehemiah felt. You know, Dr. Youssef talked about him having this cushy, lush position within the Persian government, within the Babylonian government. But he gets the news that his city of heritage has been destroyed. The walls have been destroyed. The temple that they used to worship God in had been totally ransacked, burned to the ground. Everything they held dear, the instruments in the temple, the priestly garments, the scrolls, everything was gone. And Nehemiah is in this foreign land, and he begins to weep. He begins to repent for the loss that he went through. And what's significant is what the walls actually represent. And when you think about it, especially in ancient times, the walls represented security. It didn't matter how good your army was or how nice your city was, you had to protect it, you had to fortify it. And the best way in those times was to build walls to keep the enemies from coming out. And we see how important walls are, even in the time of Joshua, when he went to blow the shofars to tear down what? The walls of Jericho, because that way the city would fall. But it's also important because God said to his people that as long as you obey me, these walls will remain in place. As long as you obey me, I will dwell in the temple, it will stand. But the moment you start to disobey me, the moment you start not to follow the teachings that I gave my servant Moses, at that time I will leave the city and the city will be destroyed. So knowing that the city was destroyed reminds us that the people walked away from God. But what's beautiful is Nehemiah's desire. He repents on behalf of the nation. He comes back to the city. He says, God, we want to serve you, and we're going to prove it to you. We're going to rebuild the walls as a sign that we want you back in our lives. And that's the message that's in this book that we want to make sure you have. It's very exciting what God is doing.